Today we're going to talk about 5 reasons that you're not able to land a tail whip. The tail whip was the dream trick for me when I started riding BMX, and after only 3 days of riding, I realized that this trick would take me a very long time. If you're anything like me, you've been trying tail whips for a long time, and it might take a while for it to click, and that's okay, because in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 of the most common issues that people have with tail whips, and then I'm going to teach you some different ways that you can work around these issues and ultimately land the tail whip faster. So let's get right into it. Now, one of the most common reasons that people can't land a tail whip is they're not able to get the frame and kick it all the way around. Kicking the frame around and getting it to start in one spot and come all the way around to the exact same spot is a big issue for people. Most people end up only kicking the frame about halfway and then landing. The way that the tail whip works is kind of a foreign concept to us BMX riders because we're not very good at physics and it takes a while to understand. So let's talk about some ways that you can overcome this problem. The first thing you can do is practice off the bike, okay? So if you're just trying tail whips fly out over and over again, maybe it's time to switch it up a little bit and stand with the bike under you and throw the bike around and do a tail whip motion, making sure that the frame lands right next to you. Just by doing this, you're kind of starting to understand the hand motion that plays a big role in getting the tail whip around. You could try to kick it a little bit harder. Generally, when you're doing a tail whip, you're kicking with your back foot at the same time that your front foot moves behind the back wheel. And if you kick it a little bit harder, this can help get the bike all the way around and complete a full tail whip. Although this usually isn't the main reason. The main reason is that people generally don't have the right hip and shoulder movement. When you're doing a tail whip, it's very important to make sure that your body is coordinated perfectly. You want your wrists to be doing a certain thing, you want your shoulders to be doing a certain thing, and you want your hips to be moving in a certain way and in a certain position. The tail whip's a very particular trick because just about every part of your body is working together to get that bike around and get your feet back on. And so if just one part of your body movement is off a little bit, you're gonna have a really hard time landing the tail whip. And getting that frame around is the most common issue for people because it just is very hard to do at first. If at the end of this video you're still having trouble learning tail whips, I invite you to check out the free training video that I put together. The link for that's in the description. I'm going to break down 3 secrets that you need to understand, and learning these secrets will help your bike riding immensely. So another common issue is catching the bike in the air or catching the bike at all. It's very hard to get the bike around. It's even harder to get your feet on the bike. This issue is less common because most people starting out have trouble kicking the frame around. Once you understand how to kick the frame around, you're going to start figuring out how to get your feet on and how to catch the bike. There are a couple of different ways that you can tail whip, and I'm sure you've seen different pros do it. You might see a park rider catch a double whip mid-air, and you might see a street rider catch a hop whip after his tires already touched the ground. So it doesn't matter when you catch the whip, it just matters that you get your feet back on the crank arms if you're like me, or the pedals if you're a pro, and you land the trick. That's literally all that matters. But getting it and catching the bike is very hard for a lot of people. Let's explain why. So first, you need to double check that you're spotting the pedals. I know there's a lot to look at when you're doing a tail whip. You've got to make sure your bike's level, you got to make sure your arms are doing the right motion, you got to make sure your feet are in the right way. But if you're looking up like this, you're going to have a very hard time seeing the pedals come around and putting your feet on them, because ultimately once the bike's under you, you just got to put your feet on the pedals. It's that simple. So double check that you're not looking up into space or looking at your hands or something like that when you're doing a tail whip. Make sure that you're not kicking the bike the wrong way. Yes, there's a right way and a wrong way to tail whip. Nick talks about this in the goofy footed video in the bike school training modules. You want to make sure, if you want to learn a tail whip the easiest way, that you're kicking with your back foot, because when that frame comes around, it's easiest to catch with your front foot. The position's better, you don't have to reach your foot over the frame, and you can just catch it. So make sure, double check that you're doing the tail whip with your proper footing. And the third thing, watch for your knee positioning. Your knees have to be bent in a certain way, especially with your back foot. When that frame comes back around, your knees have to be bent and your leg needs to be out of the way so that that tire can pass your back foot and go smoothly into your front foot. If your knee's not bent right, your foot's going to get in the way and it's going to stop you from getting your feet on the pedals in a tail whip. Okay, a third common issue is landing off balance or landing sideways. This is extremely frustrating because now you're getting your feet on the pedals, you're kicking the bike around, but when you catch it, you just kind of tip over to the side. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but one of the biggest reasons is the way that you're popping out of the quarter pipe. Make sure that when you come at the quarter pipe and when you pop out of the quarter pipe, your chest and your body is going forward and your chest is staying over top of your bike. It might feel easier to come out kind of like a down whip and kick it with a little bit of an opposite spin. Technically, this does shorten the amount of distance that your bike has to travel in the tail whip, but it's going to throw your balance off and it's going to ultimately make it harder to land the trick. I know it seems easier to kick the bike less and get it around less, but trust me, just do it straight on. Make sure that your chest is going forward and staying over the bars. Another reason this might be happening is you're not absorbing the impact. You want to make sure that you're catching the bike when it comes around and then unstiffening your legs. So as soon as you catch that bike and your tires start to hit the ground, just like if you did a drop off a picnic table or a ledge, you're going to compress your body. And this absorbs the impact and it gets you back centered and centered on your bike so you have your balance. And if you don't do this, your body's staying stiff and your balance is just going to be completely thrown off. So make sure that when you're doing the tail whip after you catch it, you compress and you absorb that landing so you don't tip over to the side. And I know everyone says this, but just practice. This is not an easy trick to do. And I remember the first time that I learned this trick, I landed it good. It took me a million tries, 2 years probably. I landed it, I was super happy, and then I couldn't do it again for 3 weeks. I kept trying and trying and trying. It was like everything clicked in that moment. Then I landed it, and then it all just went away and I had to relearn it again. It was the most frustrating thing ever. So be patient with yourself and make sure that you do lots of practice. So the fourth and the fifth issue that you might be having with the tail whip kind of go hand in hand. And so the fourth one is not having enough height. Obviously, if you're 100 feet in the air, like imagine you ride out of a plane, okay, you're skydiving, you have a parachute on. You ride out of a plane. Do you think that if you held onto your bike and you kicked it around, you could get a tail whip to come all the way around and you could catch it again with your feet? You probably could because you have lots of time in the air. Now, if you're only a foot off the ground, everything has to work together perfectly. The execution has to be perfect and it has to be really smooth and quick. So just think about that there. Now, when you're coming out and doing a tail whip, especially if you're trying it hop, you need to have really good bunny hops. Hop whips are like level 7 out of 10, level 8 out of 10 difficulty. They're a really hard trick. If you're doing them fly out, having more time in the air is going to help get it around. As long as you know how to kick the bike around and you know how to catch, getting more air is going to be really beneficial. Don't take this advice if you're still trying to figure out how the tail whip works. If you can't stand with the bike under you and kick a quick tail whip around and have it land next to you, you're not ready for this. And more time in the air is not going to help you because you're still figuring out the physics of the trick, okay? And so if you already know the physics of the trick and you just feel like your bike's landing over beside you and you can't get it under you, more time in the air is definitely going to help. But more time in the air isn't all you need, and this is where issue number 5 comes in. A lot of people have big fear associated with a tail whip, and because of that, they're not able to commit all the way. And so this kind of ties into number 4. If you're scared of doing the tail whip or you're scared of going high, you're obviously not going to be getting high enough. And so I want you guys to think about those two things hand in hand. Say, well, I know I'm not getting high enough to do the tail whip. Is it because I'm scared? And if that's the case, there's some things you can work through to get over that fear. One of the things that helped me to get over that fear the most was getting good safety gear. I always ride in shin pads, especially when I'm doing tail whips, because then if I slip my pedal or I don't land the tail whip, it's not going to be the end of the world because my shin guards are going to save me. So make sure that you have that safety gear on, you have a helmet, you have your shin guards, your knee pads. That's going to give you an extra confidence boost and it's going to make it easier and less scary for you to attempt a tail whip with more air. The second thing you can do to work through this is progress gradually. Don't try to tail up your first day of riding. Don't try to tail up your first week of riding. Things build into each other. We talk about this a lot in the bike school framework. If you want to learn a no-footed can, it's going to be easiest to start with a one-footed can. Having a good amount of bike control is going to help you get more height and feel more stable in the air when you're doing a 360 or a bar spin or a tail whip. And so you need to take that progress gradually. If I've done one backflip before, I'm going to feel more confident trying a double backflip. It's not going to scare me as much as if I'd never done a backflip or if I can't even jump, right? Like if you're a new rider, thinking about a double backflip is going to scare you to death and you're not going to try it. But if you're pretty experienced, you've done one backflip, it's a natural progression to send a second one in there. Same with bar spins. Once you learn bar spins, the next step is going to be double bar spins or bar spin no-hander. But just starting out from not being able to bar spin to trying a double bar spin literally doesn't make any sense. And so you want to progress gradually. By progressing gradually, you're going to have a lot more confidence and you're going to be comfortable going faster, going higher, and attempting the tail whip. The last thing here is to visualize it. This sounds kind of crazy, and I know it's like, this has helped me a lot when I'm trying a trick that I'm kind of scared of and I need a confidence boost. If you just close your eyes, you think about the trick, you think about the way that that trick works, think about how much speed you're gonna have, how high you're gonna go, how you're gonna kick it, what you're gonna do, and you visualize that whole trick, it's gonna feel like you've done it. And this sounds crazy, but just try it before you knock it and leave a comment and tell me if it actually helped. It's helped me a lot. Visualize the whole trick. It's going to line up and it's going to feel like you've already done it before, so you're going to feel a lot more confident trying it. Don't forget to check out that free training video that I put together. The link for that is in the description. It's 100% free, and I guarantee you're going to be a more confident and competent bike rider after you watch that extensive training video. So go check that out. We'll see you guys in the next video.